There are a million different ways to draft your fantasy team, but we all know if we've been playing fantasy football for a while that nailing those late round running backs are a guaranteed way to find success. In this video, I'm going to run you through the 5 running backs going in the double-digit rounds or later who I think are the key to fantasy football this year, talking about their ADPs, talking about the upside case with them, but also talking about why I think they're going so late. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing, but let's start off with the player that I think is being criminally underdrafted. Javonte Williams is currently going as the RB46 on Underdog. Now, Javonte Williams is a really interesting case. He was being drafted incredibly high a few seasons ago. He had a pretty stellar rookie season, then unfortunately suffered an ACL, and he's never really looked like the same player since he was drafted out of North Carolina and was an absolute tackle-breaking machine. But he did start to look a little bit healthier last season, or even though the fancy finish didn't quite represent that. Now, the interesting case with Javonte Williams is that the competition in Dallas is absolutely nothing. He has Miles Sanders, then also Jaden Blue in the backfield. Now, Jaden Blue is an interesting piece to me, but is more of a third down back. Jaden Blue is being drafted around the same sort of range as Javonte Williams. To me, that's absolutely not something I'm looking to do. I'd probably take Miles Sanders over Jaden Blue for the next season coming. I think the Cowboys are going with the tactic of, okay, last season, Rico Dowdle managed to hit 1,000 yards for us, so let's not spend capital on the running back position. They've actually not shown an inclination to do that since drafting Zeke Elliott all those years ago at 4 overall. And so I think the tactic that they're taking is, okay, we can make do. We can make do with spending less capital on the running back position, even though it's an area that people want them to target every single draft for the last few years. They've not been willing to do so, and they get clowned for it. But last year, it worked. Rico Dowdle broke 1,000 yards, and he was a practice squatter. Javonte Williams, this is really a make-or-break season for him, but the talent is still there. There are some plays that you still see at work. But being drafted as the RB46, even last season when it was a down year, he vastly outperformed this. I think he will have the lion's share of the work in Dallas. He was signed before Miles Sanders. Jaden Blue is very much a complementary piece and a pass catcher with explosive speed, but Javonte Williams has always been a good pass catcher as well and a fantastic pass protector. So Javonte Williams being drafted as the RB46, I would be stunned if he doesn't outperform this ADP, making him an easy click for me on basically any build. The other player that I basically can't stop drafting is Jaylen Wright going on Underdog as the running back 55, which is genuinely insane to me. I think Jaylen Wright is being drafted this low off the back of a disappointing rookie season and also a disappointing season last year for the Miami Dolphins as a whole. But even when considering that, the Miami Dolphins had a really rough season, Devon Achane still managed to finish as a top 12 running back. He was an absolute PPR scam, and this was in a season where they basically couldn't run the ball. The Dolphins have gone out there to try and improve their offensive line this offseason, and most importantly, Raheem Mostert has now left the team. This is a team that just 2 years ago had Achane and Mostert finish as top 4 running backs in points per game. We know that the ability is there, and Achane has also not had an insignificant injury history. He is incredibly light, which means he gets beaten up quite easily. He's missed at least a couple of games in every season he's been in the league so far, and wasn't particularly healthy through college. Jaylen Wright is the clear backup to Achane, but even if Achane doesn't see an injury, Wright has a chance to perform on his own. If Mike McDaniel can figure out some of the foibles of the rushing scheme, some of the different ways of being able to mitigate that not fantastic offensive line, even though it now has improved, he's shown that he can have 2 running backs produce. Now, maybe not to the same extent as RB3 and RB4 in points per game or whatever it was a couple of seasons ago, but Jaylen Wright at RB55 is such an easy click for me. He has the explosive ability to be a bell cow in the system, but even if Achane stays healthy, I think there's a really good chance he can outproduce this cost. If you're enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Just 10% of the people who watch my videos are subscribed, which I think, based off my views, means that I'd have 1 million subscribers by now. Mr. Beast needs to watch his back. Anyway, I'd really appreciate if you would subscribe. There's so much more fun content coming your way, including the first episode of my Off the Wire series, which launched last Saturday, and I think you should definitely check out. But let's get into one of my other absolute favourite targets, being drafted a little higher than the others, but someone with a really high ceiling and a very high floor. Now, Cam Skattebo wasn't my favourite prospect. He actually ended up finishing as my RB7, but pre-draft was more sitting around RB9, RB10. It was more to do with the lack of wiggle in the game and the fact that I don't think he's a fantastic receiver. But what you can't argue with is that he plays with violence, he is a fantastic goal line back, and he's great between the tackles. Landing with the New York Giants is a perfect landing spot for him. Tyrone Tracy can still keep that third down work, but Skattebo is going to get all of the goal line work and a huge share of the early down work as well. Now, he's being drafted as the RB31, which is the highest of any running back in this video. But the thing with Skattebo is that if the Giants' offense takes a step forward, as we think it might, Russell Wilson actually in his last couple of seasons has played really well. It's kind of gone under the radar. If the offense can take a step forward, there's going to be more goal line work. If there's more goal line work, then Skattebo could be inflated by touchdowns alone. And I think there's a very good chance that that happens, especially due to the fact they don't really have another red zone weapon. Theo Johnson obviously has pretty good size. Malik Neighbors is a smaller weapon, so probably not someone you'd want to be throwing to in the red zone too often, although he is good at it. So Skattebo should be seeing a huge amount of the workload, and it wouldn't surprise me if even as a rookie, with the proclivity he's shown in the red zone through his career in college, if Skattebo could finish with 10 or more touchdowns in this offense, I think that's going so under the radar. Would it be a fancy pancake video if I didn't find a way to talk about Brashard Smith? Brashard Smith is currently going as the RB60 on Underdog. He was drafted to the Chiefs in the 7th round of the draft, and he was one of my guys in the rookie draft. He was someone that I've drafted absolutely everywhere. I loved the explosive skill set. I loved the receiving ability. I also loved the nuance that he'd found in his footwork and in his vision, considering that Smith had only been playing running back for a year before declaring for the draft. And he basically landed in the perfect landing spot. Isaiah Pacheco is a good running back, but very replaceable, and especially on third downs, where in the last couple of seasons, the Chiefs have gone out of their way to find someone who can play that Jerick McKinnon role. Even looking to Samaje Perine last year, there's a clear need for a third down back in this offense. And given the nature of Pacheco, there is a world in which he can be replaced on early downs as well. Now, both Pacheco and Smith are going way too late in drafts. But when you look at Smith going as the RB60, even if he were to just take the third down work and then also function as a receiver on some downs, there is an easy path to him outproducing this cost. And if you look at him potentially being able to take over Pacheco's role, he could be the absolute steal of the offseason. The main thing is that at RB60 prices, it is barely a wasted selection if he doesn't hit. But if he does, this could be an absolute league winner. And I've been telling you about it for the last 3 months. I might have said earlier that Jaylen Wright was the easiest click in any draft. I might have just said it with Brashard Smith, but it is actually Roschon Johnson. Roschon Johnson is a good running back. He has a clear nose for the end zone. He's a good pass protector. It's one of the reasons that he was drafted out of Texas a couple of years ago, where he'd been the backup to Bijan Robinson all his time through college, so hadn't really had an ability to show himself. But he will play that David Montgomery role in the Ben Johnson offense. It's absolutely mad to me that the Bears didn't go out and add a running back in free agency or in the draft, but they didn't. So they are going into the season with Roschon and DeAndre Swift as their 2 running backs. That's their combination, unless they go and trade for someone or they add one of the free agents that's still out there who isn't really a huge amount. There's not really anyone left. This is being recorded after Nick Chubb signed with the Texans, so there's not really anyone that they can go and get. So this is what they're going into the season with. Unless an undrafted free agent rookie can emerge, it's going to be Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift. And we already know that Ben Johnson doesn't like DeAndre Swift very much. He was part of the staff that traded him to Philadelphia back when Swift was in Detroit. So I wouldn't be surprised if he likes what he sees with Roschon, and Roschon ends up being the RB1 on this team. And with an offensive head coach who has basically propelled both of his running backs to fantasy stardom the last couple of years in Detroit. Now, despite that, Roschon Johnson is going as the running back 83. That is genuinely absurd to me, and I can't understand the reasons why. This is the easiest click in any fantasy draft. Roschon is free right at the end of your drafts. He has an easy path to being a league winner, and I can't understand why he's going this low.